Hello, hello, hello. And I think when I started streaming, I understood that voice is not coming. So, anyway, welcome to day 11 of um, Android OpenGL, animating water droplets falling into a cup. And yeah, so I was not getting any work done here today. So, that is why I decided to stream it anyway. So that I could just get some clarity. This is not a very exciting phase of the coding and development, and so I mean, this is exciting if you want to make it be exciting, but currently by default, it seems less exciting. But the point of the whole stream is to make everything exciting. So that is there. And I'll just check whether I'm live. Yeah, I'm live. Yeah. So we do remember where we left off yesterday, right? So yesterday we were in. Yes, yesterday we were here where we were trying to actually make sure that we have uh, um, just do this. We're trying to make sure that we are at least on par with whatever things that were done online. Then we recognize the next steps for connected down data structure, some steps for improving water droplet, add a collision to initial droplet, and how to re-add the water droplet, remove the top corner of the cup. So in order to add the texture as a data structure, right? To pass on the connected data structure, we should first check what is being done currently. So that we'll do first. So we will be as specific as possible in this case and then do the things. So for that, we'll just open, yeah, we'll open this. And in here, we see the 2D screen, right? And there we go. There, what do we see? We see that there are two programs that is getting initialized, right? One is the vertex one is the M program, one is the M buffer program. And the texture handle, what all types of texture handle we are actually adding, that also we need to check, right? And the two passes. So texture output handle we are creating for the first buffer, right? Uh, yeah. So what we will write is for the first pass and for the second pass. Now in this, for the first pass, what do we do for the first pass? We have to make sure we understand that. And what do we do for the second pass? Yeah, so for the first pass and for the second pass. For the first pass, we initialize the for the first pass we initialize the um, the m buffer program. We have a texture output handle for sending output. We have a texture output handle for sending output. Okay. We have a texture output handle for sending output. Okay. We have a texture output handle for sending output. Okay. And what does that mean? This means that configure texture output, right? Yeah. We do a GL bind texture as texture 2D. And this is the we generate a texture handle and then we bind it as texture 2D, and then we don't upload a bitmap, but instead of that we just say that have a null with respect to it, right? And we just say it has width and height. So that is how you convert or create a texture, right? Either you make sure that you load a bitmap, or you make sure that you just have a null pointer passed to it, but make sure that these things, you do a GL text image 2D for that, right? Both cases you do a GL text image 2D. Okay. And after that, what is being done? Uh, After that, after this, you add the shaders, bind the variables. Yeah. And after doing those, adding the shader and binding the variables, what do we do? We do start the draw part. In the draw part, we actually create a frame buffer. Uh, no, gen frame buffer happened before itself, right? Frame buffer dot get 0. Yeah, gen frame buffer already happened before. we do a gen frame buffer, that is initially we do a gen frame buffer, and after which we do a gen frame buffer initially, and after doing the gen frame buffer, we make sure that we call the uh, bind frame texture 2D, right? To the frame buffer texture 2D with the frame output handle and with GL frame buffer, right? And with a GL color attachment 0. This is what we do to make sure that this line is what we do to make sure that this is regarded as the output of this particular thing. And then we then what do? We then just give the parameter as the texture data handle, right? What is it? Texture data handle, right? New texture uniform buffer handle. Okay. What seems to be, this should have been texture uniform buffer handle. Is this an issue? We'll just check with this, right? Why is texture data handle different from texture uniform buffer handle? Uh, that I'm not very sure of. How is the texture uniform buffer handle different from texture data handle? Let me just again check. Where is the texture data handle used, by the way? Okay. Is load texture. Okay. GL bind texture data handle. Okay. Okay, GL texture data handle and uniform buffer handle, right? Um, there is some sort of mistake apparently here. Let me just install and check. So basically, what I'm trying to do is trying to understand what is happening in the first pass, how the textures are getting handled, and then make sure that have this second thing as a attachment to the frame buffer, right? So that it can be reused as the data structure. Currently, we cannot pass an array as the connected data structure because it is simply too big. So yeah, I'm trying to install this again after I did a minor change. So the important thing, as usual, I'm going for to a preach mode. Important thing here is to make sure that we keep on moving forward, even if it's one step, two step, three step, or whatever the way it is, so that after some point of time we are able to complete it. The sentences become more meaningful if you have a streak in streaming, right? As in, otherwise you are just rambling. I mean, if you are capable of making better sentences, it means that you are on a streak in terms of streaming. Otherwise, you are just saying something. That's all. Yeah, this is working for sure, for sure, for sure. So yeah, what we are doing here is we have a texture output handle as a color attachment, which is great. Then we just say that to texture 2D we hand bind texture data handle, and in the second case we bind the output texture output handle, I guess, texture output handle, and then we just make sure that the parameter that is getting passed is GLES20 GL uniform 1I texture uniform buffer handle. So this is also fine. So basically what we are doing here is we'll just try and summarize it in the notes in the doc. Bind the input data of texture variable name and the actual texture. Bind the output as a color attachment 0 to the frame buffer. Find the output as a color attachment 0 to the frame buffer. In the texture output. Okay. Bind the generated frame buffer at frame buffer, right? Yeah. And for the second pass, We initialize a M program with shaders and variables. We uh, texture output handle is the texture input. Then bind the default frame buffer as frame buffer. Yeah, and this should work, right? Basically, yeah, this is somehow how the things are happening. Now, one thing to notice, when the frame buffer has only one color attachment 0, by default the texture is getting manipulated, right? As in, we are not specifying in any place that observation when we have only one texture output at color attachment 0. When we only have one texture output at color attachment 0, by default the shader program writes the values in this, right? Yeah. Now the question is, how what kind of attachment will the int array be? How do we change the values in it? These are the two important questions. What kind of texture and how do we access the values in it? Three things are there. What kind of attachment will the int array be? How do we change the values in it? How do we access the values in it? Great. So these are some of the important questions here. Now let us just go through some Stack Overflow to understand exactly what to do. Stack Overflow has been our guide in these tough times when there is less amount of documentation or the documentation is scattered. Yeah, color attachment 0 in buffer. अच्छा. So by default, it is written to GL color attachment 0, and it can render to GL color attachment 1 as well, or GL color attachment 2 as well. So let us just try that. Specify color attachment GL draw array. GL draw array versus GL draw buffers. Defines an array into which output be written. And GL draw array. Okay, so I can do a GL attachment 1 and then GL draw buffer. And then do alt enter. Why is it an unus? Only GL color attachment 0 is by default present, I guess, for GLES20. Maybe the color attachment 1 is not there at all. That is also possible. For GLES20, there is no, by default, there is no color attachment 1. So maybe whatever we read about the color attachment is only valid for cases other than mobile. Um, Sorry, throat is itching a bit. Color depth attachment And then what else is there? Pencil attachment. Color attachment is there, depth attachment is there, stencil attachment is there. Frame buffer, multiple. Frame buffer, depth attachment. How is depth attachment used in case of uh, frame buffer, right? And how is stencil attachment used in case of frame buffer? This seems to be. Yeah, so I'm not sure how we will be able to send the data still. I mean, man, this is extremely difficult, seems to be. This seems to be extremely difficult again. I am totally into my mental spacing out thing. But I feel that there might be a requirement of more than one. Maybe there might be a requirement of more than one, more than two passes in the shader. That is definitely a possibility. So suppose the first pass in which the data structure itself is updated. Input is, but there can be only one input, man. Oh, there can be multiple inputs. Yeah, I'm sorry. Can be multiple inputs of texture. Uh, you will not be able to write it, but there can be multiple inputs of texture. So let me just go through some multiple pass algorithm. Let us just do that. Uh, First pass, second pass, third pass. First pass has input the texture and the texture and the data structure. Second pass as input output of the first pass. And third pass as input the data structure, which evolves, right? Which evolves. Yeah. So we need a three pass algorithm, right? In which during the first pass, you take the texture, you take the connected information, and you just move the variables, right? Move the things. Uh, Move the things in the make change to make change to output data structure, and here make change to connected data structure. Yeah. The first pass and third pass are somehow, one is for making the image change, and the other is for making the data structure change, right? One and three are basically doing the same thing, but both are required because you are manipulating two different. One is the data structure, one is the actual image that is being shown. Um, so yeah, that makes sense. But now then the connected data needs to have the uh, obstacles as well as part of its information. Otherwise, it will not be able to do its changes. Yeah. So yeah, we need to go for a three pass thing. Why are we going for this three pass thing? Because we cannot manipulate multiple outputs basically. If you're able to do that, that is well and good. Because you need to make a change in the. Yeah, we need to be able to make a change in both the data structure as well as the output that is shown. Yeah, this has been one of the most less vocal kind of stream, but at least it is still a stream. Three pass opengl. can modify the color values, but that is not what I want to do, right? Right texture values in shader opengl. This is what I want to do. I think changing it with one more pass seems to be a better suggestion. Uh, this is in March 2007, by the way. Okay, but you have to manipulate multiple texture these things, right? That is the issue. There is not just one texture that needs to be changed. There is multiple textures that need to be changed. One is for the connected data structure, and another is for what is exactly going to be shown. So that is why, yeah. So that is why we need to be needing to having multiple passes. As in more than two passes, basically, not multiple. It's already multiple passes, but having more than two passes. Now, one more thing is, now if this is the case, how would I add one more? Yeah. If this is the case, how would I add one more texture, right? As in one more drop into this. That is a different problem altogether. But at least we should first start by doing the three pass thing and then evolving and then checking what is happening after that. This is not going to be very easy. Give me a couple of minutes to get some water and come back. I think I'll be back after some time, no? I think we have established the fact that we need more than two passes to make this thing work as per the current setup. I mean, until and unless we figure a way out in which we can write out to multiple textures in one pass. So let us just check that part, and I'll be back after some time. Mostly today I'll be back, and I'll do the third part as well, as in the third pass, not the third part. Yeah. Bye, 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 bye.